I made this video to shed some light on the size of the Lord of the Rings Online. Many articles and videos that aim to compare the sizes of different worlds of the gaming industry give very vague and inconsistent numbers, mainly due to them just reposting some value found through a quick and cheap research in previous material featuring the same type of content. For the Lord of the Rings Online, the more widespread size reported by some forums, videos and articles, is the ambiguous 77,700 or 77,700 square kilometers. Being written with a comma after the double 7, one can only extrapolate from the position in the ranking where the game is placed, that the intention is to consider the dimension as 77.7 thousand square kilometers. Such a number is of course nonsense, since it would mean the area being like a square with a side of 278.7 kilometers, or 278,700 meters. As for the original source of this misleading value, I think that the number is just a misinterpretation of, maybe, a calculation made when the game was young, after the official and original 50 million square meters statement, and surely before Moria. This conjecture would match also with the factual presence of a second official statement written on the back of the physical release of the Moria expansion. There, it is written that the world was almost 85 square kilometers in size. So, what would be the size now, in Update 29? I do not aim to definitively dispel the confusion, since there are two ways of doing the measurement, and I will not take the long road. The method 1, and the most precise, would be to precisely map the borders of the accessible landscape, which are ultimately the invisible walls, by running along the limits with a character and a software that constantly monitors and transcribes the position. The second, and the one I use, is a method based on my personal knowledge of the map, and a rough application of something vaguely resembling a Riemann sum, at least as concept. Furthermore, my choice was to not consider interiors and any area that was both detached from the open world and too small to really make a difference. So for example, I considered the Path of the Deads, but not the versions of Minas Tirith during the siege, or the countless small rooms of each interior. Such a small contribution to the final result will be in any case included in the uncertainty of my measurement. Full Minas Tirith is less than 1 square kilometer in size, and most of it is actually not walkable. So, let's see the calculations. For the task, I derived from my personal documentation proper maps and grids, so that I could highlight the borders of the areas with the correct scale. The map is taken from the plugin Terrain Map, so thanks to Garen for his huge and outstanding job in shaping it. The grid is made by squares, their size being exactly 25,600 square meters. I wrote a simple flood fill algorithm with whom the squares inside the border will be counted. Lastly, I would like to state that I will take into account only a fraction of the area highlighted by the borders, because those squares are placed roughly on top of the real borders, and they might or might not effectively contain a portion of surface that should be counted. So I will multiply the total border area by a factor of 1/3. That will mean that on average a yellow square comprehends only 1/3 of terrain that has to be taken into consideration. So, let's cycle through the regions. This is the portion of area that will be counted, so only the main part, while the other sections you see scattered here are not really something walkable or being a meaningful part of the real world of Lotro. So, in Region 1, area, the count gives a total of 108.67 square kilometers as green squares, and 33.46 square kilometers as yellow squares. So taking into account the 1/3 factor for the border area, we got a total of 119.83 square kilometers. Irvanian has got some bits of land detached from the main block. There is Moria here, and the War of Three Peaks area here. All the copies of the Helm's Deep that you can see here are not counted, since each one is used for a very small part. So, in Region 2, Ravanian, the count gives a total of 132.10 square kilometers as green squares, and 31.74 square kilometers as yellow squares. So taking into account the 1/3 factor for the border area, we got a total of 142.68 square kilometers. Gondar has got some islands detached from the main block, like the Paths of the Deads and the Dead Marshes. In Region 3, Gondar, the count gives a total of 62.95 square kilometers as green squares, and 16.23 square kilometers as yellow squares. So taking into account the 1/3 factor for the border area, we got a total of 68.36 square kilometers. The Mortar region has the mortar besieged version, while many other parts are being not counted as being of lesser importance. In Region 4, Mortar, the count gives a total of 41.24 square kilometers as green squares, and 13.21 square kilometers as yellow squares. So taking into account the 1/3 factor for the border area, we got a total of 45.64 square kilometers. Important note, in the calculations I wanted initially to count also the area of the future Karbronak, since the place is almost entirely done already. Nor am I counting anything from Region 14 for the historic version of Azanulbazar. I decided instead to stop my count to what is available live in Update 29. At last, I can announce the final sum, that shows the grand total of 376.51 square kilometers. Thanks for watching, and thanks to the subscribers that made celebrating this achievement possible. Do not forget to tell me in the comments whether you managed to set up the more precise calculation I suggested at the beginning, or if you were able to set up any kind of measurement, such that we can compare our results. See you in the next video.